Title: A Spark in the System. The humidity inside the Fulton County Courthouse felt like a second skin, thick, suffocating, and impossible to ignore. Fluorescent lights blinked overhead, casting twitchy shadows along the tiled floor and against the high wood-paneled walls. A restless crowd shifted on the benches, their murmurs floating like static, curiosity prickling just beneath their skepticism. At the defendant's table stood a wiry black teen in an oversized navy blazer. His name was Malik Rivers, 15 years old, baby-faced, but with eyes that had seen far too much for his age. Beside him, shackled at the wrists and ankles, sat his cousin Deshaun Rivers, dressed in the dull orange uniform of the county jail. "You sure about this, kid?" Deshaun muttered under his breath, his voice frayed with fear. Malik nodded slowly, tugging at his borrowed blazer sleeves. "Yeah," he said. "We're not going to let them do this to you." Footsteps echoed with authority as Judge Franklin Aldridge entered the courtroom. He was a stern man in his early 70s, with white hair that seemed chiseled from stone and a disposition just as hard. He didn't look like the type to offer second chances, or even first ones, if your skin was dark and your zip code didn't end in double digits. The moment Aldridge took his seat on the bench, the room stilled. Not out of respect, but fear. He banged his gavel like a war drum. "Name, boy." Malik stood, voice shaking but posture firm. "Malik Rivers. I'm representing Deshaun Rivers, Your Honor." Snickers bounced from the back rows. Judge Aldridge smirked. "This isn't a high school debate club, son. You're out of your depth." More laughter followed, the kind that cut deep, but Malik didn't flinch. He straightened his tie and met Aldridge's gaze head-on. "Depth isn't the issue, Your Honor," he said, voice clear. "Truth is." The silence that followed was thick and heavy, broken only by the subtle clink of Deshaun's chains. Malik opened a worn notebook. Its pages were creased, edges curled from late-night reading and research sessions by a dim desk lamp. He scanned the first page as the entire courtroom leaned forward. Aldridge shifted in his seat. He couldn't quite place the feeling blooming in his chest. Was it curiosity? Unease? Because the boy wasn't bluffing. He had something. Flashback. 2 years earlier, on the south side of Atlanta, a younger Malik sat at a lopsided table in a cramped row house. Graffiti painted the alley outside in colors that told stories of survival. Inside, Malik was surrounded by secondhand law books, borrowed from libraries that still stamped checkout cards by hand. His pencil scratched furiously across a yellow legal pad. "Mama raised me alone. Dad got locked up when I was 7. Wrong place, wrong time. I swore I'd learn the system that took him." Malik didn't cry anymore. He underlined legal precedents like a warrior sharpening his blade. The house creaked with age, the drywall bowed in places, but the table he studied on might as well have been an altar. Every paragraph he consumed was fuel for something bigger than himself. Present day. In a stark visitation room with grimy plexiglass between them, Deshaun leaned forward, panic flashing in his eyes. "They said I robbed a liquor store," he whispered. "I was at work. I got the time card. Everything." Malik slapped a folder on the table. Papers spilled out, photocopies, receipts, handwritten timelines. "It's a setup. Like what happened to Dad. And I'm going to prove it." The tension between them pulsed. Outside, sirens howled in the distance that a flashback flickered on a screen in Malik's mind. Grainy footage of a black man slammed against a squad car, hands zip-tied, while whispers of planted evidence drifted through a crowd of onlookers. That memory was a familiar face. Sheriff Kyle Harland, shaking hands with a developer in a tailored suit, laughing like wolves around a carcass. "Harland's dirty," Malik muttered. "And I've got names." Back in the courtroom, Day 2. Prosecutor Diane Sumner, a sharp-featured woman with clipped speech and cold confidence, strode to the center of the courtroom. She slapped a grainy photo onto the evidence table. "That's the defendant, Mr. Rivers, fleeing the scene." Malik shot up from his chair. "Objection. That's not him." Sumner raised an eyebrow. "And what makes you so sure, counselor?" "That photo was taken on a different day. I have the store's log." Sumner scoffed. "He's a child playing dress-up. Aldridge leaned forward, half amused. Then prove it, counselor, or I end this circus. Malik slid a crumpled receipt across the table. Here's a time-stamped purchase. It places my cousin across town at the time of the robbery. He followed it with a citation. People versus Livingston, 1972. Case law on the admissibility of time-based alibis. The courtroom gasped. For a moment, Aldridge said nothing. Sumner's cheeks flushed red. Your Honor, I move to disqualify him as representation. He's unlicensed and unfit. Aldridge paused. Then, hearing set for tomorrow. We'll decide then. Gavel slammed. Malik packed up his notebook, but his hands didn't tremble anymore. Outside, as crowds dispersed, a woman approached. She wore a tweed coat and a face weathered by time and battle. I'm Miss Judith Coleman, former paralegal. That sheriff's name, Harland. He framed my nephew in '98. Got him 20 years. Dig deeper. She pressed a faded arrest report into Malik's hand. The ink was smeared but legible. This is bigger than your cousin, she added. Much bigger. That night, back in the row house, Malik pored over Judith's report. His mom slept behind a thin wall, unaware of the war being fought at the kitchen table. Connections emerged. Harlan's name on multiple arrests, all targeting black homeowners sitting on valuable land. Each case ended with land seized, developed, and flipped. Malik circled names in red ink, dated the arrests, drew lines like spiderwebs. They were stealing homes by planting charges. And Deshawn? He was the latest. Final day, the courtroom overflowed. Some stood along the walls. Cameras from local news stations waited like vultures. Malik stood tall. Sheriff Kyle Harland orchestrated a campaign of false arrests, he declared, to force families out of their homes and open land to developers. Sumner shouted objections. Files began to vanish, disappearing mid-trial. The defense's evidence table was swept clean during recess, but Malik didn't flinch. He raised his voice. In case 1472, Harlan's signature appears on 3 falsified reports. Gasps rang out. Then came a thunderous entrance. Sheriff Harland himself barreled into the room. You little, but before he could finish, Miss Coleman stood and held up a recorder. She pressed play. A scratchy voice, Harlan's voice, sputtered. Pin it on the Rivers kid. I want that lot cleared by fall. The room exploded. Officers hesitated, then cuffed Harland on the spot. Judge Aldridge banged his gavel again and again, but the courtroom no longer listened. He wasn't in control anymore. Malik clutched his notebook. Deshawn's chains fell away. On the courthouse steps. The crowd cheered as Deshawn emerged, free at last. Malik stood beside him, looking exhausted but unbowed. Judge Aldridge descended, slow and contemplative. You've got guts, Rivers, he muttered. Don't waste them. Then he walked away. A local attorney, suit pressed and grin wide, approached Malik. Ever thought about law school? Come intern with me. Malik nodded. Deshawn grinned. You're a legend now, cousin. Camera flashes danced across the marble. Malik smiled faintly, then stepped back, vanishing into the sea of applause. That night, they sat on the porch. One soda can between them, passed back and forth. Pops would have been proud, Deshawn said quietly. Malik pulled a worn photo from his wallet. Their father, smiling, arms around both boys. We're just getting started, he whispered. Days later, Malik stood at the gates of a state prison. Cold iron loomed before him. I'm coming for you too, Dad, he said. The photo in his jacket pocket pulsed like a heartbeat. Gravel shifted beneath his feet. He was alone, but not really. Weeks passed. A youth rally filled a community center. On stage, Malik, now in a simple jacket, gripped a mic. They underestimate us, he declared. Let's prove them wrong. Every single time. Cheers erupted. The air vibrated with purpose. At home, Malik's desk groaned under the weight of law books. He stared out at the Atlanta skyline, then whispered, This is for all of us. And somewhere in the city, a system trembled at the end.